changes have been introduced, we will keep a track, just take a review of all of them. Then we will see a sample bill. Now we are in June, so already people who were working in April have received the bills and I have few samples. So I'll explain how new calculations are getting done, and a sample bill also will go through. Then there are a lot of queries which I keep getting, people who have rooftop solars, how their power factor will get affected when rooftop solar works in different categories, different operating modes. So I have tried to simulate that in ETAP and I am giving some examples related to that. Then let's go to factors affecting economics of reactive power management, because ultimately, just because DISCOM wants KWH equal to KVH, everybody may not invest into that. There is a financial angle also to all that. So we'll try to discuss that and try to find out how effectively and safely and calculated paybacks can be calculated for whatever solutions you think about. So impartial view of what all solutions available and what are their drawbacks and advantages. That also will come to know. Then salient points to optimize the cost of reactive power compensation, and then we'll give some recommendations for solution design. So this is all what I will try to cover. I referred few documents while preparing this PPT. First is MERC released the order on 30th March 2020 against MSEDCL petition, which was filed, which was the number of petition was 322. They released the order against this and that made all these changes in Maharashtra. MSEDCL commercial circular dated 323, rather number T 323 dated 3rd April. All these documents which I am referring are available on MSEDCL and MERC websites. You can cross-check them if for any further details whenever you require. But they are standard documents available now, and these are being referred at present for new billing era and whatever is happening in Maharashtra. So I am referring to these documents. Now let's slightly go back and see what was happening. Right from 2000, all of us in Maharashtra at least are aware that we used to get various notices from MSEDCL regarding harmonic compliance. They wanted us to keep harmonics within limit, and at times we used to get notices related to keep harmonics below 1%, below 2%, below 3%, and all that. They all were quite confusing. And when we used to work with clients for harmonic mitigation, always the question used to come to us that if we do this, are we going to get a clean sheet from MSEDCL? Now, unfortunately, when we found that although it was in MSEDCL's supply code document 2005 clearly mentioned that they will refer to IEEE 519-1992, unfortunately, the knowledge available with their field staff was not enough to implement this standard. Second thing was they never had instrumentation. Even though they are not geared to measure harmonic distortion of a particular industry as specified by IEEE 519-1992. And because of that, all those misleading notices used to come. So from various forums like Consultants Forum and other places, we used to always try to talk to MSEDCL and MERC that something should be done regarding to this. In between, in those days, maybe around 2012 or 13, I think, Tamil Nadu government introduced a 15% penalty on harmonics, and they point blankly told their consumers that you have to keep your distortion below 8%. That evoked a lot of petitions, and even today it is not established practice to do that. But that prompted even all DISCOMs that can we do this? Can we have some penalty on harmonics? So all this was going on, and during one of such hearings, MERC actually asked MSEDCL that do you have data? What happens to your system because of harmonics consumed by all your consumers? If you have any data regarding technical problems or regarding losses increased because of harmonics, then we'll allow you to charge penalty or whatever. Otherwise, you can stick to provisions in 519-1992 as you and your consumers understand. So that liberty we have given to you. So for collecting this data, ultimately MSEDCL thought that let us have some concrete data with us. So they selected 100 consumers from Maharashtra from various types of industries. And in March 2018, my company SAS Powertech was fortunate to lift that tender, and we audited those 100 consumers in Maharashtra from all different kind of industry sectors: IT, commercial buildings, small consumers, steel industries, and all that. And then I got opportunity to present all that data in front of all top directors of MSCDCL and explain them technically what is going wrong. See, since 1963, I mean, that's the year I remember. It might be even before that, because in 1963, when I was only 3 years old, MSCDCL had already started giving 7% incentive. I mean, percentage of incentive might have varied from that year till recently, but all leading power factors were considered as unity. If you have more capacitors than required, if you install more capacitors than what are required to bring your power factor to unity, in Maharashtra, utility company used to give discount on the bill, which ultimately incentive on the bill, which ultimately had come to about 7%. So people were behind it. Around say from 2000 onwards, nonlinear loads increased in tremendous numbers in our industry. All of us, we started using a lot of VFDs, we started using a lot of UPS systems and all that. And in typical harmonic environment, capacitors can create havoc. I mean, they can ultimately it gets turned into resonance and harmonics increase. So first thing we could tell MSCDCL was the harmonic distortion in 63% of the cases. We saw that the harmonic distortion was increasing because of introduction of more capacitors than required. And on top of that, after having sourcing for more capacitors, MSCDCL actually was delivering more KVAs, and on top of that, they were giving discounts. So when this was brought to their notice, first thing which they thought was probably if we try to equate KVA equal to kWh, then things can become slightly more easier. So all discounts acted through entering tariff petition to MERC and requested change in power factor calculation formula. See, what happened was earlier meters which we had, HT meters which were installed in industry in Maharashtra, they were programmed to read leading power factor as unity. So it was not possible to get exact kVh figure from meter and start kVh billing immediately. That's why we all know that in September 2018, our power factor formula was revised, and we had that kVARH lakh plus lead in the denominator, and that was somewhere close to kind of a kVh billing. And MERC guided all discoms that by 1st April 2020, all of you should have meters which are capable of recording kVH, and accordingly now all of them have done that, and we are in an era where now KVH billing has started. So this was a rough background of what happened before 1st April 2020. We all got enough time from September 2018 till 1st April 2020 to correct our power factors as close to unity as possible. And now the KVH billing has started. Let's see slightly, what happens when under these three conditions: undercompensated systems, overcompensated systems, and exact compensated systems. I have tried to simulate a small, say, substation and consumer. This 25 MVA transformer, let us say, working at 132 kV primary is from utility company, and 10 MVA transformer is at consumer's end. The first thing, when power factor is reactive power is undercompensated, you can see that the load is drawing about 4380 kVAR. In this case, the kVA which are delivered by utility are 8935. MSCDCL or the utility transformer of 25 MVA has a loss of about 16.7 kilowatt, and utility and the transformer at consumer end is losing around 53.5 kilowatt as transformer loss. In second case, if we talk about overcompensation, here you can say that this whatever reactive power you can see is actually overcompensated. In this case, you can see that the kVA supplied are 8407. And if you have exact compensation where the power factor is close to unity. You can see that 7533 kilowatts are delivered only with 240 kVAR. So its power factor is almost unity. In this case, it goes down to 7521. See, the end result is for supplying same consumer load, 1414 kVAs are saved. This 1414 kVA utility company can probably give to any other consumer and earn more revenue by utilizing their 25 MVA transformer in a better way. Now, all of us, we know that in entire India, distribution companies are running like private companies. In many of the places, still they are owned by government, but they are supposed to earn profit. They are supposed to invest out of that. So they actually have a right to utilize their infrastructure more judiciously and earn maximum possible revenue out of it. So this would be possible if consumer power factors are maintained at unity. Utility transformer losses also, if you see, in first case they are 16.7 kilowatt, in last case they were 11.3. So 5.4 kilowatt are saved as far as utility is concerned without doing anything by them. Just if the consumer controls the power factor at unity, they can save about 5.4 kilowatt. So again, it's a net saving because these 5.4 kilowatt they have to pay to transmission company from where they get this supply. So that also can be saved. So this was a basic idea behind controlling power factor unity at consumer's end, and this is kind of a technical explanation for all that. Now let's see some typical industrial or commercial bill components. All of us, we know that there are some fixed charges. Utility company charges this to cover their fixed expenses, overheads, asset depreciation, and cost of finance, normally proportional to contract demand. Variable charges are energy charges, billing charges, FSC, TOD, incentives, discounts proportional to energy consumption, KWH, KVH, KVRH, etc. They are variable charges. And then there are some statutory charges which are again proportional to consumption, taxes and duties. So all electricity bills in India are divided into these three categories. I would like to mention here one thing, that if you see bills from Middle East or all developed countries, let's say Middle East or Europe or wherever, the bills are comparatively very simple, because first thing is they don't need any cross subsidizing of electricity charges. For developing countries, we have to collect more charges from those who can pay and compensate for still provide electricity for someone who cannot afford those charges, and pay for their minimum expenses at least, which distribution company has to incur. So because of that, all our bills are slightly complicated compared to all Western countries, and so many things are divided between fixed, variable, and statutory charges. So that's why our bills are comparatively complicated.
This is where your voices
has come from 1st of April. All of us, we know that our first component in our bill is demand charges. Earlier it was 391 rupees a kVA. Now it will be 411 per kVA. Each and every point I have explained in further slides as to what the order says and how it is going to happen in next 5 years. But this is at least for the first year. So this is what has happened. Billing charges were 0.37 for most of us. Now they will become 0.57 per kVH. All this will be now per kVH. Billing charges again are different from place to place, even within Maharashtra, because they actually are levied for compensating distribution loss incurred by distribution company. So if your substation is very close to you, obviously distribution losses are less. And for the consumers who get supply from, say, kilometers of a distance from a MSDCL substation, obviously the losses beyond our meter are more. So billing charges could differ there. Energy charges, earlier they were per kWh 7 rupees 7 paisa. Now they will be per kVH and they will be 7 rupees 2 paisa. TOD almost same. Earlier it was calculated on kWh. Now it will be calculated on kVH. FSC, it was monthly variable. Now also the order says it will be monthly variable. They have created some fund and something which I'll explain in next slides. There is some difference in FSC. What we can probably try to understand here is FSC charged for compensating fuel charges. I mean, all in India, most or even today, more than 70-75% of our electricity is generated using coal. And generating companies get coal on short-term contracts. So every month their coal purchase price can change, and end product, they have to obviously adjust the price of end product based on their main input, which is coal. So same thing they pass on to transmission company, same thing it's passed on to distribution company, and then it comes to us. So at times they need this FAC adjustment. PF incentive till recently it was 3.5% based on average PF in a month, and it was based on some slabs. We all know that from 0.95 to unity it was variable, and now as far as PF is concerned, there will not be any incentive. Although the PF will be displayed on your bills, it will not attract any incentive. They have introduced other discounts in the new structure. Well, first is going to be a bulk discount, which was not there earlier. Now it will be 0 to 2% for reverse slab. I'll explain this what it is in next few slides. Incremental discount is also another discount to attract MSCD consumers to MSCDCL rather than going to some private power purchase agreements. What they are going to do is they will calculate your average kWh consumption for last 3 years. And from 1st April, in any month, if you consume anything more than that average, then that incremental part above your average, they will charge 75 paisa less. So this is also additional discount which is introduced now. Electricity duty is same as above, and tax on sale is same as above. And all these statutory charges I don't discuss much because technically we cannot do anything to either reduce them or increase them. So let's discuss these things one by one. Demand charges will increase to rupees 411 from 2020 per kVA, and for 2021, and will be 432, 454, 463 and 472 kVA for subsequent years. So 2025, the demand will be charged at 475 rupees per kVA in Maharashtra. That's what the order says. MD will be counted for consumptions during 6 a.m. to 22 p.m. So within this period, whatever you consume, standard 30 minutes window will be executed by MSCDCL trivector meters, and the maximum demand consumed between 6 a.m. to 22 p.m. averaged over 30 minutes will be taken as MD. This is a new thing which they have introduced now. We all know that few of our commercial buildings or offices or even factories for that matter work only in one shift. A few factories may require to work in one shift because of recession or because of less orders in the product in which they deal or something like that. Till recently, demand charges were no different for these kind of industries. Now they are saying that if you can declare that your operation is going to be in single shift, then MD charges will be 60% of above. That means instead of 411 into 0.6 will be charged for such industries. There is a format which they have said you will have to declare that you are going to work in one shift, and 8 hours in one shift should be in continuation of 10 hours in 24 hours. I mean, you can choose any 10 hours span from 24 hours, and you have to work in those 8 hours only in those 10 hours. If you can satisfy that, then you can get this benefit. You have to declare, get sanction from them, and then this will be implemented. All arc furnace users in steel industry, obviously they are all bulk consumers. Their minimum connected running loads will be in the region of say 25 MVA or 50 MVA or 75 MVA. So they will be charged, the demand will be charged for them at 75% of actual charges. So 411 into 0.75 will be demand rate for all those who have arc furnaces installed with them. Minimum chargeable demand till recently it was 50%. Now for next few years it's going to increase 55%, 60%, 65, 70 and 75. So from 2025 it will remain at 75%. Now the reason behind this is a survey done with all the consumers. MSCDCL found that about 40% of the consumers use only 50% of the demand. Once MSCDCL or any utility company sanctions you a contract demand, legally they are bound to supply you that much of demand anytime you ask for it. So they have to block their capacity to some extent. They cannot depend on diversity factor, and the end result was their infrastructure was getting less utilized. So either you have to commit your demand exactly and then compensate on this, or you will have to keep paying for 75% of your contract demand always, even if you use less. So this is a new thing which they have introduced now keep a check on that, I just because I do not know how much I'm going to use, I book 1000 kVA as contract demand and I never cross 1200. Now that will not be, that will charge you more. I mean, they allow you to do that even now, but then your basic charges will increase. Billing charges, as I explained, they will vary from place to place. The basic rate they have increased from 0.37 to 0.57, and all EHT consumers, those who consume power at a voltage beyond 66 kV, will not be charged any billing charges, because in most of the times they are just next to MSEDCL substations, right? I mean, 220 kV or 440 kV substation will be there, and next to that this industry will be there. So first thing is voltage is more, so current is comparatively very less for the same power. And second thing is the distances are also comparatively very less. So distribution losses are less. That's why they won't be charged billing charges. Energy charges, at least the order says that it will start as 7 rupees 2 paisa per kVH from 2020-2021 and will reduce gradually 6.96, 6.89, 6.85, 6.73. When this order was released, MSEDCL or MERC or no one from us knew that the COVID situation will stretch so long and demands can go down. Now at present MSEDCL is struggling for getting the rate hiked again because they are incurring loss every day. Things will improve, but this is what the order says, that KVH per KVH charges are going to reduce in next 5 years. TOD charges, again, as I said, time slots are same and the calculation method is also same. Only thing is they will use KVAH instead of KWH for calculating it. Power purchase agreements also, this will be in KWH, and this injected KWH will be reduced from total KVH recorded by main meter. So if you keep your KWH equal to KVH, even under PPA, you will end up paying less for whatever you take from utility company apart from your PPS. So that also, actually the provision remains same. FSC, as we discussed, the new provision which MERC has suggested now is that MSEDCL is supposed to create a fund which is known as FSC fund, and they have to accumulate 1500 crores into it and then use this for whenever required, when the actual their input cost increases, till these funds are exhausted. And only after that they should charge for FSC. Now, how this fund will be created? All of us must have noticed that in few months we get FSC negative. In few places we have seen that FSC was negative in last 4-5 years. So henceforth, any negative FSC will not be passed on to client, and only positive, I mean, whenever they want to charge more, will be passed on to client, and this negative FSC will be accumulated in this fund and will be used for all future increases or incremental charges whenever they charge for. So FSC again will be variable. Presently we are getting it zero. Maybe once things starts rolling normally, they will charge something also. PF incentive, as we know, there will not be any incentive or penalty now. So bulk discount is a new discount which they have introduced for all HT consumers with less than 1 lakh kVH consumption per month. There is no discount. If your monthly consumption is less than 1 lakh kVH, then there is no discount. For consumers consuming greater than 1 lakh units per month, kVH here again, per month, following discounts will be available. For monthly consumption from 1 lakh to 10 lakh kVH per month, the discount will be 2%. From 10 lakh to 50 lakh will be 1.5%, and anything you consume above 50 lakh will be 1%. So your actual consumption will have to be divided into 4 slabs: below 1 lakh, from 1 lakh to 10 lakh, from 10 lakh to 50 lakh, and 50 lakh and above. And these discounts will have to be calculated based on that, and then that will be available to you at the end of every month's bill as a discount. So this is a slight compensation of power factor incentive what we all were getting earlier. This is trying to compensate that, and trying to keep your overall outlay for whatever you consume less than or maybe about equal to as what it was earlier. Incremental discount I already explained. I want to calculate your 3 months, last 3 years average kWh consumption, and anything less you consume from 1st of April every month, that incremental portion, which is rather more, if you consume more than that average kWh, whatever you consume more will be charged 75 paisa less and will be available to you as incremental discount. Duty and taxes, again, as I said, they will be same as they were previously. See, there was a say that this particular tariff change will bring in harmonic penalty in Maharashtra, but discounts request regarding imposing penalty for harmonic stands rejected while current MERC order. Again, for the same reason that they never had any ready data with them, so they cannot charge any penalty for next 5 years. However, MERC says that DISCOMs can take necessary action wherever required as per previous supply code 2005. So suppose I am in a organized industrial zone and I have a substation maybe 500 meters from me, and my neighbor I know that my neighbor consumes more harmonic currents, and because of that I am getting some disturbances. Then I can go and complain with MERC, rather MSEDCL, and then if after checking, if they found that my neighbor is violating supply code 2005, then they can take action on him, or they can ask him to correct those harmonics, giving him some time limit or something like that. So that is still valid, but no penalty or harmonics on for harmonics on bills recently. MERC has ordered schedule for installation of recording type PQ meters at PCC and MSEDCL and MSETCL end for all bulk MVA and EHV consumers above 15 MVA and 20 MVA. This is there in the order. Those consumers who have their contract demands more than 15 MVA and 20 MVA, they will have to connect a recording type PQ meter by 2023, and MSEDCL and consumer will have to keep exchanging data between them at same timestamps, because recording meters will have that possibility of having recording all the parameters with a timestamp. So this will probably create some data regarding how much harmonics are consumed, at least by these bulk consumers. Is the story ends here? I mean, there is no penalty. Is it a good news? Actually, what has happened is, all of us, we know that during last December, January, or maybe February in some consumers' case, in Maharashtra, MSEDCL and Tata Power and whosoever, your Adani, whosoever DISCOM has replaced your main meter. The meter is not replaced for those who had ABT meters. ABT meters were already recording true RMS power, but wherever ABT meters were not there, those meters are replaced by MSEDCL during December, January. And now these meters are recording true RMS power and true power factor. So it takes care of reactive power due to harmonics. We have noticed that there is a difference between kVH recorded by new meters and kVH calculated based on lag plus lead formula. Even if you see your bill from April, you will see that the power factor calculated is still based on lag plus lead formula, which is available in the bill. But if you divide your kWh by kVh, which are mentioned in your bill, that will differ from this power factor formula. There is about 10% difference. The meter will record 10% more kVh if your harmonic distortion is more at meter end. Wherever MSEDCL meters, your HT side harmonic distortion, if it is more, typically by say 15% or more, you will get 10% difference, and then that will prompt you that for reducing optimizing kVh billing, you will have to do some harmonic mitigation. Of course, if payback permits. Today you are not going to get any extra penalty because of that, but if whatever kVh you are paying extra, if they are affordable to you, you can still continue with whatever you have. But if they are more, and if you have money, if paybacks are good, you can think of harmonic mitigation as well. Try to give some examples of bills. Suppose there is a consumer who is having consumption less than 1 lakh kVh. You can see here that he will not get any additional discount or any additional bulk discount or whatever they have offered, and his bill will straight away increase by about 8% for the same consumption, whatever is shown earlier. His bill will increase because straight away his billing charges have increased and demand charges have increased. Because of that, his actual bill will increase. He will not get any PF incentive or whatever. So in such cases, bill is bound to increase compared to what it was earlier. And if he tries to correct his power factor, say presently his power factor was 0.932 as mentioned here. If he tries to go to 0.999, still there will be, he'll still keep some difference in the bill because of basic increase in the tariff itself. So, and if you calculate and see here, his consumption, if you want to really compensate for that marginal difference between kVH and kWh, you will have to closely control about 15 kVAR in his factory. If he's working for 20 hours and say 26 days a month, controlling 15 kVAR very closely is comparatively difficult, probably possible only with electronic corrections. And the payback may or may not be attractive because with doing all that, he will save only 9,000 rupees a month. So this is what I call as economics. We'll come to know later more about this. But, these calculations one will have to make. I'll just mention here one more thing. When we had conducted some roundtable conferences with all these DISCOMs before this was launched through our consultants association, all DISCOMs were under the impression that the day they bring notification that kWh should be equal to kVh, all consumers will immediately go for it. When we explain them economics, that ultimately if my finance guy says that whatever energy cost I am incurring because of this difference is acceptable to me, why I should invest more in correcting it? I mean, it's not that it's a crime, you know, that my kWh is not equal to kVh. As long as I am not crossing my contract demand and the energy cost which I am paying is affordable to me, I will not correct immediately. To tell you truth, it was a shock to them. They all were under the impression that everybody will do it immediately. So this was brought to their notice as well, that you don't expect that everybody will do it immediately the day you tell them. This is the probably most complex bill you can think about. This consumer has more than 65 lakh unit consumption per month. He has a PPA as well, and all sorts of combinations are possible in this particular bill. Here, if you can see, what I have done is out of his 67,16,881 kVH which he has consumed, and he has consumed about 33,26,158 from MSEDCL. You can see it here after reducing his PPA. The first 1 lakh, 10 lakh units from this charges become so much after calculation. Next 9 lakh units, the charges become so much, and the balance units, the charges become so much. So you have to add all of them. Your total bill should match. Now, based on this, I mean, for A, there is no discount, for B, there is 2% discount, and for 3, there is 1.5% discount. I have calculated it here, and then your total rebate gets calculated. So this will be the total rebate, what you will get. Now, after getting all that, you can see that his bill increase will be about 10 lakh rupees a month. Again, it's a relative term. I mean, when he's paying 4 crores as monthly bill, 10 lakh rupees means same to him as what means to other who is paying, say, 3 lakhs or 4 lakh rupees a month bill. But what happens is, if his increase in bill is 10 lakhs per month, for a typical 12 months payback period, if you think about for a solution, he gets a fund of about 1.2 crore rupees. Definitely, he can do something in that. If his company is ready to accept 2 years payback, then he gets 2.5 crores for the correction. And 2.5 crores definitely can give him something better. I mean, instead of losing 10 lakhs, he might start losing 5 lakhs per month forever. So that's the benefit. Again, things have to be studied thoroughly because so much of load will not be concentrated. This particular consumer, the running load was about 18 megawatt spread over about 50 transformers. This was a steel industry. So obviously, load patterns, everything has to be studied thoroughly before giving any commitment for actual possible saving. So this is what can happen with a larger consumer. Let's take another example of a commercial building or IT park. Typically, all of us know that commercial buildings and IT parks these days we have multi-party tariff or multi-tenant tariff systems imposed by MSEDCL and all these DISCOMs. Because of that, what has happened is individual consumer in your building will have his own meter, which is for which he pays to utility directly, and only balance all area consumption comes under those who are maintaining the buildings. And because of that, it is quite likely that the consumption can go below 1 lakh, 10 lakh kVH, and they will not get any discount. As you can see here, this is a commercial IT complex in Pune where we had collected this data. There are so many buildings here. Only one building process 2 lakh unit or something like that. So all others will not have any rebate, and because of that, the total bill can increase, and they will have to take some precautions. They will also probably have to impose on their tenants now, those who get supply from their transformer, to maintain their power factors close to unity. Otherwise, both of them will end up paying more. So this is a slightly different case compared to industrial consumption. That's why I mentioned it separately. Now let's see some facts behind economics, which was actually our basic topic for today. Industries are not run for maintaining power factor at unity, but to manufacture and sell products and to earn profits. I mean, as technical people, we always complain that we don't get budgets for any technical correction, or there is a lot of reluctance in giving budgets for doing such corrections. So this is the main reason, any finance guy will think whether investment in this is more profitable or investment in a new machine is more profitable. So it is not mandatory that KW equal to KVA or KWH equal to KVH should be maintained very precisely and equal to each other unless it is financially pinching to the organization. As long as incremental cost due to KWA not equal to KVA does not affect product costing, energy consumption targets, one need not spend on correction. I mean, energy consumption targets are added because we have a lot of multinationals working in India. There are few corporate groups also which are, very cautious about environment, and they put extra restrictions on their energy use. So even for that, maybe some corrections will be required. So in both the cases, corrections are required. Payback of required investment should be attractive to organizational finance planning and strategies. So this is also one of the things. Selected solution should offer 1 or 2 years payback, and the vendor should support it for next 5 years so that it pays for the organization. I have specifically mentioned this because there is presently, we are going to see it in next few slides as well, that there is a combination of electrical and electronic solutions for this particular problem. But typically what we observed in industry, I mean, I am observing this industry for almost 30 years now. Every 3 to 5 years, the electronic come and tell you that his technology is obsolete and he cannot support the product anymore. So any change will be required there. Another thing, as far as this support is concerned, typically APFC panels, whatever we have been using so far, were maintained by our own electricians, right? And we always used to say that no external agency is required for maintaining APFC panels. The moment you have electronic solution, buying a 100 ampere active filter or a harmonic or a static var generator of same capacity, probably you are like buying a 100 kVA UPS. So all internal parts inside that panel are custom built by the vendor, and you will have to depend on him for. So those solutions are required. I am not saying they are not required, but they should be used optimally for the reasons probably which I will explain in next few slides. So that's why this 5 years support is required. Otherwise, we have seen few industries around us who have invested crores of rupees and were expecting 3 to 4 years payback. And after 4 years, actually their cost was recovered, and after that the installation became obsolete because vendor was not ready to support. So instead of paying to MSEDCL, they paid that much of money to the vendor. I mean, company never gained anything out of it. So that should not happen when these solutions are implemented. Possibilities of bill optimizing using technical solutions. Concentrate more on optimized solutions for KVH close to KWH close to KVH in real time. Other factors like billing, FSC, duties, taxes, they are all commercial taxes, and technically we cannot do anything to correct them. So your basic aim should be to bring KWH as close to KVH as possible, and all the rest of the things will follow. I mean, if your KWH is the minimum power which your loads require, so you have to give that power. Your loads also require a minimum amount of reactive power as well for the running. So if you generate them locally by using proper solution, then you will not draw it from utility. your bill will be optimized. Do it within the budget available to you. Do it within the available solutions. So that's what one needs to do. What are the challenges? Earlier, average monthly PF values from 9.95 to 0.99, we were getting stage-wise discounts, stage-wise incentives. So any small achievement, there was some gain. Now there will not be anything like this. Any moment you keep your power factor less than unity or more than unity, rather lagging on either on lagging side or on leading side, immediately your bill is going to increase. You cannot back correct it anymore now. So your real-time power factor is becoming more and more important rather than the average power factor over a month. Earlier, this was some adjustments were possible. I mean, during that MSCDCL audit, we saw few people who used to keep leading power factor throughout the day and disconnect all the capacitors during the night and use it without capacitors because their product was, the machinery was getting affected because of harmonics, and still their average power factor was unity and they are getting full discounts. Now, such thing cannot be done with KVH billing. Correcting using only capacitors or wrong detuning of passive filters will give rise to increased harmonic current due to resonance, will increase KVH. So again, this is also a challenge. Let's see what kind of typical load patterns you get. Now they become more important because your solution will depend upon this. What type of load pattern your company is into. We have some stable loads like IT industry, pharmaceutical industry, hotel loads, where loads are comparatively stable over the time. So a sluggish kind of a correction is feasible in these kind of industries. Heavy fluctuating industrial loads like steel rolling, combination of HT, LT loads, rubber industry, all these things are heavily fluctuating loads. I mean, loads can vary right from 500 kilowatt to 5 megawatt every 3 seconds. I mean, such kind of loads also are existing in the industry where you need different kind of solutions. Fluctuating large LT loads, again, engineering industries, process industries like cement, petrochemical, etc. There is another new issue which has come up. I'll explain you in next slide what it is. HT cable capacitance. We are not considering this field recently because HT cable capacitance used to ultimately overcompensate your reactive power consumption. So you are not getting any penalty for it. But now it is likely that you will get penalty because of this. I'll explain you what it is in next slide. Typical budget approval constraints are need 1.5 to 2 years payback, normally insisted by all finance guys. Energy cost not a major part of indirect expenses. So your management may not be keen on doing this immediately. Large budgets required as existing. We have seen this. The C point is very critical. In industries, we have seen that although the consumption is huge, 3 megawatt, 4 megawatt, 5 megawatt, things like that, but reactive power compensation was so far totally neglected. In the sense, department was told that keep more and more capacitors connected so that we get incentive. Though no automation was adopted so far. In such industries, obviously the budget will be slightly more. And if it is not acceptable to the management immediately, maybe my advice would be you can plan it for 2-3 years. As I said, it is not necessary that you should go for KWH equal to KVH in the first year itself. You can every year you can take some budget and then reinvest it again. But again, the compensation will have to be planned properly as a master plan and then executed every year. So this is also required. Just because there are so many vendors around, we are getting a lot of confused proposals. This is also possible, which may hold you from getting a budget approval. So let's see what is this cable capacitance issue. This is a typical case where we have resolved this case now, but it was a typical case that from grid, this 22 kV grid it was, this 300 square mm cable was about 2.8 kilometers, which was coming to this transformer, and then there was a load at this end. Now, even if I keep load open or even if I keep HT side breaker open for this transformer, I was getting 93.7 kVAR at metering end, and the meter installed here was rotating with 97.5, 93.7 kVAR. For the calculation, simplicity of calculation, if we assume this 100 kVAR, every hour you will see that 2400 kVAR lead will be recorded, and equally your KVH also will increase and you will get more bill. So one thing I would like to emphasize here is 1 kW if we use for 1 hour, we say that 1 kWh is consumed. Similarly, 1 kVAR if we use for 1 hour, it is considered as 1 kVARH. So any extra capacitor connected in your plant, we all have a habit and we have done it for years together, that keeping 50-60 kVAR fixed connected for each transformer. And under such situation, if you have a holiday of if you are not working on after one shift or 2 shifts, all your capacitors which are connected permanently are going to clock kVRH now, and that will get reflected into kVH. So this is one of the examples. Here the solution probably what we are suggesting now is shunt reactors, which was never used in India so far on LT side. HT side shunt reactors are quite common, but LT side shunt reactors were not very common, but they are required under such conditions now, because otherwise your bill will increase. Which are the available solutions for whatever problem we discussed so far? There are basically 2 types of solutions, passive and active, or their combination. Passive is fixed capacitors, fixed detuned corrections, contactor switched automatic APFC panels, detuned filter panels, thyristor switched detuned filter panels, shunt reactors. These are all passive corrections. Passive corrections typically will have more life if installed with proper calculations and proper prior study, and maintenance cost obviously is comparatively very less. I mean, capacitor replacement after every 5-6 years, and reactor probably no replacement for initial 10 years. These kind of things are possible. So these are passive solutions. In active solutions, what you get is you get static VAR generators, you get STATCOMs, you get hybrid, which is detuned plus SVG or detuned plus STATCOM. You get active harmonic filters. All of us, mostly we know that these things are existing. This question comes quite often, so I'll explain difference between SVG and STATCOM here. SVG actually can deliver only lagging or leading reactive power. SVG cannot typically correct harmonic distortion, whereas the current capacity of STATCOM can be programmed between harmonic correction and reactive power compensation. So this is a basic difference between these two. Again, active filters also you can have only for correcting harmonics or for correcting both reactive power as well as harmonics. And hybrid is a combination of both. This E is slightly unheard of. Some of you might be having a what we call as captive generation within your plant. If you have synchronous machines working in your plant, either motors or generators, suppose you have a waste heat in your plant and you are using that waste heat and generating electricity, then all alternators can be programmed for partly active as well as partly reactive power to deliver into the grid. And they also can be used as an active compensation device, and you can save on additional investment on your reactive power compensation systems. Initially, if it is programmed while rather planned while execution, it is possible. Presently, we are working on a project in Malaysia where we are able to save about in Indian rupee terms about 2.53 crores of our client just by spending few lakhs more on their generator, which they are going to install now. So this solution is also possible. Now we have already seen that all these type of solutions are possible. Now let us see these all reactive power compensation solutions. We know that they are loads on supply, right? We all connect them parallel. Just like you connect your machine, you connect the APFC panel or a RTPFC panel or a electronic panel or whatever. So some energy is definitely lost within them, and you have to pay for it. I mean, that energy doesn't come from anywhere else. So before selecting the solution and combination of solution, one should actually go for this as well. Let us take some cases. What I have assumed here is, suppose the plant is working for 24 hours, 365 days, and gross tariff, let us say for the simplicity of calculation, 10 rupees per kVH. If these are the assumptions, and if your plant needs 1000 kVAR of reactive power compensation, okay, First case which I have considered here is, if let's say you have used only capacitors. Now capacitors typically have only 0.5 kilowatt loss per 1000 kVAr with 60% diversity. If you calculate this, then it comes to around 26280 rupees per month, rather 2620 per year and 2190 rupees per month, which is negligible. A 1000 kVAr capacitor panel if the plant requires, probably their electricity bill per month will be around 15 to 20 lakhs at least. So they can easily absorb this 2190 rupees loss in the capacitor panel, and they don't have to even think about before installing, because power factor correction benefits will be much more compared to this. Let us say the same plant requires a 1000 kVAr detuned filter panel, because there are harmonics which they want to reduce and control. So they decide to go in for a 1000 kVAr thyristerized detuned panel. Now, if you do that, then your loss jumps from 0.5 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt directly. Believe me, these are measured figures. We must have installed more than few hundreds of or rather thousands of MVR so far in last 15-20 years. So these are all measured losses with best possible hardware available, in the sense reactor, copper wound reactors, and whatever you think about. With all that, for a RTPHC panel, if you see here, your loss will be about 10 kilowatt for 1000 kVAr. Again, I am assuming 60% diversity, in the sense all 1000 kVArs will not be connected simultaneously because of some load variations. Probably few of them may get disconnected frequently. So I am assuming only 60% diversity. With that, this panel will consume about 5.25 lakh of rupees worth electricity per year, or 43,800 rupees per month. So whatever you are going to save after installing this 1000 kVAr panel, out of that 43,800 rupees will be consumed by the panel itself. So you have to consider this before actually calculating the payback. Similarly, if you go for SVG STATCOM electronic solution, the loss jumps directly from 10 kilowatt to 30 kilowatt. They talk about 97% efficiency. That means it is 3% loss. And this loss is quite obvious, because every power semiconductor sitting inside the panel will have at least 1 to 1.5 volts drop across it. And if 1000 amperes are passing through it, you can imagine what will be the loss in each. They dissipate it quite efficiently. So nothing bad will happen to the panel. But nevertheless, 30 kilowatt loss will be there inside the panel. Now, this 30 kilowatt loss, if it is happening in your LT room, obviously they might ask you to put an air conditioner for a better working of this panel and better output available from this panel. So again, that air conditioner consumption also you have to add back. I have not added that. Even without that air conditioner, the 1000 kVAr panel will consume about 1,31,400 rupees worth energy per month. So you have to take it out from whatever you are going to save out of this, and then calculate to what payback you will get by adding this. Normal tendency so far, if you see calculations of a lot of vendors which you receive for correcting your power factor, they will only calculate difference in the bill which you will get because of this, and calculate payback based on this. So these things will have to be counted while calculating the solution, right? Okay, so now this is what is a April typical MSEDCL bill is going to look like. You can see the demand is charges are now 411. Now, if you calculate this power factor based on kWh lag and lead and all that earlier stuff, it comes to 959. But this division will be further lower than that. Instead of 96, calculated PF is 961, whereas actual PF is 0.959. So you can see that it is reduced slightly. This particular client is having less harmonic distortion, so that's why the difference is not too much. But we have some other examples also where it has increased. Now, demand charges, because of COVID, MSEDCL has given moratorium or staggered it or whatever. So because of that, they are zero at present in this bill. Billing charges, as you see, they have charged with 0.57. Energy charges are calculated based on 7.02, which we discussed earlier. Then TOD, let us not go into details. They have calculated and reduced it from it. Electricity duty also. Now you can see here there is a bulk consumption rebate. So it is calculated based on what we discussed. This 5,92,995 is the total consumption. Rather 618,405 is the basic consumption. They will reduce 1 lakh from this, and for another rest of the 5 you have to calculate the energy charges based on 7 rupees 2 paisa, and 2% of that will come here as bulk consumption discount. They have also calculated incremental consumption rebate here, because this consumer must have consumed more than his average in last year in this month. This particular industry was a small pharmaceutical industry in Mahad, so they were never closed. They had shutdowns due to COVID, being in essential services, and because of that, their bill is almost same as what it was in normal cases. We can see here that everything whatever we have discussed is appearing now. This is a snapshot of the bill itself. So all that is appearing in the bill, and based on that, all discounts and other things will be passed. And we already discussed how they have calculated these two things. First, incremental discount I cannot calculate sitting here, because I do not know last 3 years, 36 months consumption. But bulk discount can definitely be calculated based on whatever bill is in front of you. This is how it will go about. Now let us come to interesting thing. So many of you have rooftop solar installations working with you, and there is always a doubt as to how it will affect on my power factor. Now let us understand some facts. Plant load has requirement of active and reactive power. See, all motors, transformers, cables, whatever you have installed in your factory, they require active as well as reactive power. No transformer will work unless magnetic field is created. No motor will work unless magnetic field is created. So reactive power is a requirement of load. Active power is also requirement of load. Both these powers ultimately you have to draw from some source. When you don't have a solar rooftop, you draw everything from grid, your local reactive power capacitors. If you have solar, you start drawing less active power from grid, and entire reactive power from all other sources. So that's the reason there could be some change. So I have created some simulations, so we'll understand it better when we go to next slides. If solar inverters are not set to deliver only active power, then loads will take less active power and total reactive power from grid, and billing power factor will suffer. I have taken an example. Plant load, let's say, is 2000 kVA, and the load power factor is 0.85. Plant receives power at 22 kV through a 3.1 kVA transformer, and plant has a 1600 kWp rooftop solar system installed. This is a system which I am referring to. There is a 22 kV grid. You have a 3.15 MVA transformer. There is a bus on which you have a 2 MVA plant load, which has 85% power factor. I have made an arrangement here to compensate it totally. I can either put it on or off. I have shown that in my next slides. Similarly, I have a rooftop solar here, which is generating 1600 kWp, and I can connect it to my transformer secondary, or I can disconnect it. So this is the system. At present, you can see that the 1600 kWp is disconnected from the grid, and I have compensated this power factor totally. So my load is drawing 1700 kVA at 99.99% PF, and I am drawing 99.91 PF, 1711 kVA from grid. So this is my ideal situation, almost unity power factor. Solar is not supporting anything at present. Now let us go to next slide. What I have done here is I have disconnected the load totally, and typically in your case it is a holiday. I mean, plant is not working and solar system is still working. Here what I am doing is entire power which is generated is now pumped back to the grid. Even if you have a net meter, or even if you don't have a net meter, see, net metering is a commercial arrangement. Whatever you pump back, whether it should be charged, it should not be charged, is a commercial arrangement. But whenever you connect it to grid through a transformer, power is bound to go back to the grid unless you stop it going there. If you disconnect this, then it will not go there. But if you keep this connected, and if you are not using it locally, your power has to go back to the grid. Again, here what is happening is you are pumping in only active power, because your solar plant is generating only active power, and your power factor is again 99.95%. So power will not change even in this case. Now let us see the third case. In third case, what I have done is I have reduced my Solar rooftop and billing power factor KVH billing. Solar rooftop is on. Load and load PF correction is on. Load PF kept at unity. Only 100 kVA are drawn from grid, but PF is almost unity. See what is happening here is first time this slide the change is I have now connected the solar and the load is also on. So I am drawing only 100 kVA from load grid, but my factory load is fully compensated. I mean still I am drawing 1700 kVA at almost unity power factor. So again, my metering power factor will still remain at 99.89 because my reactive power requirement of load is totally compensated at the plant itself. I am not expecting anything from grid at present. So nothing will, it will not affect my metering power factor as such. Now let us see this where I have reduced correction. Instead of 1050 kVAr, now I have made it 850 kVAr. Okay. So load is still same, but now my load is drawing power at 99.24 PF and I have connected this here. Here what happens is entire balance reactive power I have to take from grid and I am taking very less power from the grid because my solar is on. You can see it here, my solar is on. So 1600 kVA out of total requirement is fed by solar. It is not taken from grid, but balance reactive power is now taken from grid. This is the reason your power factor will go low. So unless or until this is compensated properly, your power factor can still go low. This is possible. So these are basic combinations of solar effects of having a rooftop solar on your billing power factor. You have to take care that at all times your load power factor should be compensated to whatever it is required. Again, a real time because your solar power on your holidays is going to change every from 10 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the evening. It's a bell curve. So you may not get 600 kilowatt continuously. You may get less in the beginning, you may get more in the afternoon, you may again get less in the evening. So all that if you want to compensate for your power factor and you want to keep your billing power factor at unity, then whatever load you are running, your power factor should be as close to unity as possible. So that additional power is, reactive power is not demanded from the grid. This is as far as effect of solar plants is concerned. So I have almost come to the end of my presentation. Points to be noted to optimize the reactive power compensation cost. Whatever we discussed so far, let us try to summarize it. Major fixed loads like fans, blowers, pumps. See, lot of industries have large induction motors which work either only on DOL or star delta starters, and their loads are say constant always. I mean, the loads do not change much. In such cases, you can interlock a local fixed correction with a local contactor with that motor and correct the power factor there itself. The basic advantage is your automatic system costs can go down. So you can choose this wherever you have in your plants. Maybe you can select only larger loads because smaller loads may not affect your power factor, metering power factor to a larger extent, but this is possible. Judicious decisions are required to be taken to decide points, levels of correction, vectorization of various loads at main bus bars. See, we all know that we have huge distribution in our plants. You have main HT incomer, then you have, if you are a HT consumer, you have HT to MV transformer, then MV is distributed to so many transformers, and then there are your end loads. All the load currents consumed by your various loads, they get vectorially added to the immediate upstream bus bar. So you get what we call as harmonic cancellation effect. You get kind of a reactive power compensation effect because some of the loads might need reactive power at some time. Some of the loads might go into capacitive mode. It is possible. I mean, any one step you go ahead for giving correction to a group of load, you get some benefit as far as reactive power compensation is concerned on your basic investments. This can be very, very neatly and correctly, simulated on the electrical system simulation software, and better solutions can be designed with lot of confidence. I mean, there won't be thumb rule application as such, but you can get good solutions out of this. So actually, your solution, what all it should have? It should have internal losses within required limits to achieve intended paybacks. It should not introduce any resonance to increase harmonic distortion. Include maximum detune part as O&M cost for the same is minimum. Detune or / I would say passive. have optimized combination of all possible solutions to achieve required results, follow all installation regulations in terms of required switchgears for safety. Many times when we retrofit panels, we get a requirement from our clients that can I connect the cable to the incoming of the breaker and such things. So electrically they are unsafe. So whatever you are spending in the project, if you spend for a proper disconnector, you create a safe installation as well. These days, you can as well add a IoT-based remote sensing to monitor real-time performance, because, as I said, real-time power factor is becoming more and more important. So you can have a meter with a SIM card based hardware inside the APFC panel, which will monitor your main incomer as well as panel performance, and you can keep getting some feedback from that panel continuously on your mobiles from cloud. So you don't invest anything in your local hardware, and you can program those alerts and act on them so that bills are optimized. So this is also possible at not a very exorbitant extra cost. Points to be noted to design reactive power compensation. It is clear from all these discussions that the optimal solution for reactive power compensation needs detailed system study using simulation tools like ETAP and recording of time-dependent data. Too many options are available. I mean, that's the reason you should go for my solution. This requires obviously advice of a focused expert who can design the system in most appropriate manner after considering all techno-commercial aspects, and will take ownership of the end results. Needless to say, there will be cost attached to such advice. I mean, there are people in the market who conduct such audits free of cost, and then dump the solution whatever is available with them on the client's head, so that he may or may not get the end results, but he feels that the audit was free. So that may not necessarily generate a good and optimal solution. Initial cost, payback, O&M expenses, and assurance of service and life for 5 years after payback are key points to be considered. So they also need to be considered before you take a final decision. From MSEDCL as well as from many other utilities outside Maharashtra also, because of COVID, you are getting a lot of dynamic policy changes these days. Just study them. Just for example, MSEDCL has come out with a circular a month back that online you can change your contract demand and take benefit of reduced contract demand till the time you are operating with lesser loads and less capacity utilization of the plant. Such things will keep coming, so you can take their benefits if it justifies your need and present usage of the electricity. So that's what I can say for optimizing. Anyway, thank you, Abhijit. This was all what I had. Now, we can go for questions if there are any.
Yeah, there have been questions that have been asked. I'll just go through them on a point-to-point basis. Just hold for a sec. Allow me a couple. I'm just going through what are the. There was one question related to the FSC, which said that nothing is mentioned about the FSC in order, and will they be going to charge it in the future, bill or not? This was.
We can mail them offline the extract of what is written as far as FSC is concerned in the order. The order clearly says that, as what I explained, that MSEDCL is supposed to charge FSC only when that 15,000 crores FSC fund which they are expected to create will exhaust. Now, it is not very clear as to how they are going to create that fund. MSEDCL commercial circular, if you see, which was released at the end of, rather in the first week of April, clearly said that I have given the number of that circular also in the first page, in my presentation. It clearly says that we are going to charge FSC as we had charged in March. Now, if you see the bill, we see they have not charged anything. So, as of now, things are not very clear. I think as and when we come across further bills and we all are in easy talking terms, I mean, this COVID influence is less, then we'll come to know exactly what is going to happen about it.
Another question was, what will be the penalty if consumers consume more than the contract demand for that month, in a month?
Contract demand penalty will be same as what it was earlier. I mean, there is nothing new mentioned in this order. So, demand crossing the demand, the penalty will be same as it was before. Maybe for the differential, earlier it was 1.5 or 2 times, I think 1.5 times actual charges. So instead of 411, it will be 411 plus 411 by 2. For the differential, you consume more than your contract demand. There is no change in that as far as the order is concerned.
If HT consumers are injecting more reactive power with a leading power factor, then why aren't they being penalized for a leading power factor?
Now they will be penalized because anyway they are going to pay for KVH. They will be all HT, EHT consumers also. If they consume, if they connect more, see the example which I have given for that consumer is a 220 kV consumer, and he is about to spend about 3 crores on the solution because his loss will be about 1.5 to 2 crores per year. They will be penalized. I mean, every consumer who is exempted at present is only LT consumer. LT consumers, there is nothing in this order which is going to, they are going to be charged for more consuming more kVH. If they connect more capacitors, EST consumers also will be charged more.
How can we know if our neighbors are having harmonics if they are injecting it in the system?
See, fundamentally, anytime if you get your harmonic audit done and if you find that your incoming HT supply is having voltage distortion, that is probably the first symptom you can think about either your neighbor or at MSEDCL end itself. So, a thorough harmonic audit at a point of common coupling with your load connected as well as disconnected will give you a clear idea as to whether the disturbance is coming from outside your plant or you are creating yourself.
Yes. More than kWh readings as PF is not maintained to unity. Practically, it is difficult to maintain PF to unity. What should be the fair percentage of difference between kWh and kVh in percentage to be maintained?
See, actually, KVH, KWH, and KVRH is a Pythagoras triangle. So, if you calculate for yourself, if you try to keep them within 10% of each other, KWH and KVH, beyond that, your gain which you get is not very high. Again, the volume of gain will depend upon how much you consume. Suppose you are consuming only 1 lakh units per month, then 10% difference will mean about 10,000 units. Now, 10,000 units into 9 rupees is what? I mean, it is a substantial amount. So, if it is pinching you, you will have to control it. 2 to 3%, according to me, should be affordable to all type of industries. Again, it depends upon, as I said, if you go for steel industry, power is their raw material. I mean, their production cost is something includes about 35 to 45% of energy cost itself. So for them, it will matter much. If you are a pharmaceutical industry, maybe it will not matter you much because your cost of energy is not even 0.5% of your total indirect expenses. If you are an engineering industry manufacturing a final end product with lot of value addition, then such changes will not matter to you. But if you are a ancillary or a component sub-assembly manufacturer, then your costing is so stretched that even 1% of change in electricity bill will be noticeable to you. So it's a relative term, how much you can tolerate and how much you cannot tolerate.
The impact of for open access solar due to the change in power.
Open access?
Impact of explain the impact for open access solar purchase due to this policy.
See, open access, as far as this policy is concerned, it doesn't matter from where you are getting open access energy. You can get it either from solar or from any other normal conventional energy source. It says that now your KWH, you have to purchase KWH. See, let me explain you this in slight more details. As far as Indian legal system is concerned, you can buy or sell only real power. So whenever a consumer buys power from a private source, he will have to buy power in KWH. Whereas electricity boards are given special status in legal framework, they can sell you KVH. So with your what you can say PPA arrangement, you will buy KVH from MSEDCL, you will buy KWH from your source, and difference is what you will call as injected units. So as long as you keep your main total KVH equal to KWH, you will be paying optimum. Beyond that, nothing can be done. So solar will not have any additional advantage because of this. Solar has some other advantages like that 15-minute slot and all adjustable, all that is going to remain as it is. Whatever benefits you are getting as a solar PPA consumer from renewable energy angle, they will remain where they are. They are not changing at all.
Please put some more light on how solar power generation, if higher than plant consumption, is being fed to the grid. How will PF behave?
Can we go back? I'll go back again to my presentation so that I'll be able to explain it better.
If that slide, if the please, if you can share.
This is the worst case which can happen, right? You have a solar PV installation, you have a plant running, plant is completely not working. I mean, I just disconnected this and you are pumping energy back to grid. Now, if your solar generator, solar inverters are programmed, most of them are programmed even today only to generate only active power. It is not basically designed to generate reactive power. So what will happen is the entire energy generated will be pumped back to the grid. It will be measured as your what you can say net meter. It will be net meter if you are opted for it. Otherwise, still energy will go back to the grid because you are not consuming it. And in that case, the power factor will still remain in it. What I tried to explain was, I mean, your problem will get more addressed if you see this. See here, what has happened is I am generating 1600 kWp. I am using same 2 MVA load as I was using earlier. Now my 2 MVA load here is not fully compensated by my plant capacitors, right? So entire generation I can use here as far as the active power is concerned, but the balance reactive power I have to take from grid. If I take that balance reactive power from the grid with very less kilowatts, then my power factor becomes very low. So what I was trying to explain was your reactive power requirement comes from load. If you compensate it totally locally, then nothing will happen at whatever power you operate your solar plant with. If it is more, it will go back to grid. If it is less, your plant will consume it, and no change will happen at this place. But if your local power factor is not compensated correctly, then it can definitely affect this because load requires active as well as reactive power. If that reactive power either has to come from your local source or it has to come from grid. There is no other source for that reactive power. Whereas for active power now you have two sources. One source is grid, another source is your solar generation. So the moment you increase your solar generation, this active power taking from grid becomes less. And with less active power, if you take more reactive power, your power factor will affect at this point. So this is what it is. I hope I have addressed it. Abhijit.
Sorry, mine was mute as I was, yeah. Then another question, how net meter billing will be affected for reverse power? Power is generated in kWh and how will MSEDCL subtract it from their electricity bill?
See, for that, there is a special provision. I think we'll address this offline. It will take more time. We'll address this thing offline. We'll send them a mail for this. Take down their. It will take more time in this.
Okay. If ABT meters are calculated,
Presently, what they have said is for this particular thing, they will calculate KWH. So they know the power factor, they know everything. So they cannot buy anything other than KWH from you. So they will still buy KWH from you whenever you give more to them. And for that, they will calculate KWH and the difference will be either paid to you or recovered from you the way it was happening earlier.
Yeah. If ABT meters are calculating harmonic power, then even if there is no penalty of harmonics, then total kVH will be inclusive of that harmonic power, or how will it be?
KVH power, wherever you have ABT meters or replaced ST meters, now they are going to they are calculating all the powers as true power. So in every case, reactive power due to harmonics is now counted by your meter, even if it is ABT meter or it is not ABT meter, and that is reflecting into KVH. So what is happening now is, suppose your harmonic distortion at meter, I mean on HT side is more, then you will find that your KVH figures which are coming after April or rather after January will be more compared to what they were earlier for same KWH. So reactive power because of harmonics is counted by both the meters now. New meters, new HT meters which are working since 1st of January, mostly in most of the cases, maybe from 1st of March also in few cases. And ABT meters were doing it even earlier. But that KVH figure was not referred to for billing because leading power factor was considered as unity earlier.
Okay. Is it necessary to maintain KVH equal to KWH all the time?
Again, as I said, it's a semi-commercial decision. Nobody says it's not a rule that you should maintain it at unity. You see, let us try to understand the present tariff in a very simple way. Earlier, you were paying for whatever real power you are consuming. Now you are going to pay for whatever current you are consuming. So you consume more current, you pay more. You will consume more current if your KW is not equal to KV. Either because of lagging power factor or because of leading power factor. In both cases, you are going to consume more current. kVAH, your K is 1000 fixed, voltage is fixed. A and H is also going to, time will not stop for anybody. So time will keep clocking. Whatever current you are consuming, you are going to pay for it.
Okay. Will APFC will work when solar power is more than grid power? Will the APFC be functional if solar power inject is more than the grid power?
See, fundamentally, as I said, most of the solar power plants generate only active power. So if it is connected at a proper place, then your main city PT of wherever you have connected that APFC panel is still going to check the same power factor, and APFC has to work. There won't be any change because of adding or subtracting solar power.
How can we minimize cable capacitance as some question? As our cable length is around 700 meters.
See, wherever we have found such cases, what we have done now is active SVG is a solution for that. Static wire generator is a solution for that because static wire generator can generate active as well as reactive power. But as I said, the loss in the static wire generator plus its basic cost may be prohibitive at some times. So to compensate that, we are offering a solution as to after post measurement or post simulation. Once we know what is the cable capacitance, exact calculated cable capacitance, you can connect the shunt reactor on the secondary side. See, 7% reactor is a small reactor. What you get in your normal APFC panels. Shunt reactor means reactor itself will act as a load. Cable capacitance can definitely be compensated by having a reactor on secondary side, which will be permanently connected to your system. Obviously, it will have some loss. So some calculations need to be made whether it is advisable or not. But 99% cases it is advisable because a well-designed shunt reactor will not consume to the extent similar KVH consume. So all that is possible, and we have executed some such solutions by offering shunt reactors on secondary side. Typically, I can tell you that your 22 kV or 33 kV cable length, if it crosses about 500 meters from your transformer yard to meter, then this is more predominant. Or you have a large 11 kV network throughout your plant, even then it matters.
Yeah. There's another question. This is a specific question. We are an injection molding. We have an injection molding setup and having variable load. We have an EPFC, but still the kWh and kVh is having a lot of difference.
Injection molding is a typical on-off load, which I mean, as an energy auditor, I have seen so many injection molding setups so far. So whenever your actual hydraulic pump starts, the load is more. Whenever it doesn't, it stops, the load is less. So you have a huge fluctuating load. So systems will have to be designed accordingly to get proper solution and proper correction. Maybe smaller steps would be required. You might need discharge resistance on your capacitors and a good thyristor switch to switch them, or for that matter, if it's a very big setup, in addition to this, some electronic correction as well. But it is possible to bring them as close to as possible. And in such a plant, it is what I would advise is it is absolutely not worth having any fixed capacitor in the system.
Okay. Yeah. Please explain what is the ideal frequency for conducting harmonic audits?
Harmonic audits you should conduct maybe initially baseline if you have not done it before and if you are not sure as to where and all is happening in your plant. And next probably would be required anytime you make any change in your plant, add some nonlinear loads or reduce some nonlinear loads, or if you are getting frequent failures on your capacitors, or there are some other issues developing in the plant because of degeneration of some either correction or the load itself or things like that. And there is nothing hard and fast one can say about it. But all these harmonic correction mitigation solutions which we install, if installed properly, they will not deteriorate fast. But nevertheless, there is a deterioration. Typically, as I said, your capacitors can go bad if they are designed for lesser voltages. What we normally say is you should have a 525 volt capacitor if you have a typical 5th and 7th harmonic current predominance in your plant. If you use 415 volts, then maybe every 2 months also your capacitors can deteriorate. So any major change in power factor, if you see without an explanation, unexplained reason, or any major change in your, you should repeat the harmonic audit.
Please explain solar export calculation. How it is done in the net metering?
We'll take it offline because not directly connected with the today's subject and it takes some time. So
does our consumption kWh and kVh is having very less difference in the monthly bill? Does it mean that we are maintaining what is required?
Yes, of course. if you are getting it, then it is.
Yeah, just a minute. How can I know what is the best option for my system from all the given options? So all solutions in the terms.
Abhijit, you can answer it better.
We basically need to understand, we need to conduct a study because with the reactive power compensation study, you will be able to understand what exactly is your reactive power requirement, how it is compensated currently with your installed solutions. And then you can decide whether you need to make any retrofitting in these existing panels or if you need to add some more reactive power compensation through a better, faster switching thyristerized panel, or you need an electronic correction for momentary changes. So it will all depend on what your facility load is, how the load fluctuation is occurring, and what currently compensation techniques are used. Many a times it happens that, as in his presentation also, Mr. Dwivedi said that free audits are offered, and companies fall prey for that, and later part are forced to buy something that they may not require at all. Typically, active filters or this SVGs or electronic corrections, StatComs are the new flavor in the market, and everybody wants to sell them for every application, which may not be required. So we suggest that a detailed study and some simulation through softwares like ETAP can help you understand what should be done. At times, there are clients where only retrofitting in their existing panels have achieved what they wanted to achieve, or some places where clients were asked to throw away old panels and bring in new panels. By just installing top-up panels, the same result was achieved. So it all depends on the customer site and typically the load pattern that you are working at. There's another question here. Sir, you mentioned that if bill is affordable to customer, then why he will invest in correcting that? How to deal this to make customer aware of what he needs to do?
As I was explaining, basically it's a commercial decision. If a company wants to invest, top management has to be convinced for that investment. So I don't think if the cost of energy is affordable to the management and there are no other visible problems. See, there could be another reason where your bills may be optimized, but still you are getting a lot of failures in the plant and downtimes in the plant because of some unexplainable problems due to harmonics or due to any other electrical issues, which could be related to this. Then it is possible to push the solution. But if the bills are very close, then I don't know. I mean, you cannot convince. I mean, you will have to find out if you are a seller of these services and products, then you will have to find out the customer who needs it.
There's another question. If unit power factor is maintained, then what about the reactive power required by the plant? I feel that it means by the load. Because
anytime you maintain unity power factor in any given electrical system, you either generate it locally or you draw it from all your sources. So it is available. Unity power factor means it's a vector addition at a particular point where you are metering. Your reactive, inductive reactive current and capacitive reactive currents are cancelling each other. So you are providing reactive power by adding capacitors or drawing it from different sources. I am again saying different sources because just to cover that generalized condition, if you have a captive generation, you can as well generate that reactive power from your alternators running in your plant. So unity power factor doesn't mean you are not drawing the reactive power in from anywhere. Either you are generating it locally or you are drawing it from grid. The vector addition is zero at the point of metering. That's all.
Just a minute. Another one. We have approximately 40 numbers of transformers in plant, which almost are in line. What will be the effect on kVA billing? I didn't get this clearly.
In their case, what probably we can explain is it is the ideal thing would be to have each transformer at its own unity power factor related to its load profile. So if they maintain that, then it will be easy for having a billing power factor which is unique.
Yeah, but we can connect. Just how net metering billing will be affected as far as reverse power is concerned.
Again, as I said, as far as that particular part of it is concerned, we'll take it separately because it has to do something with the policy given by MSCDCL and all that. So net metering will not club into this. Some other questions which will be more.
Electricity board bound to supply harmonics free source, means the power supply should be harmonic free.
IEEE 519/1992/2014 is a standard which is applicable, which is a standard applicable at what they call as point of common coupling. So it decides restrictions on both. It decides the restrictions on utility as well as it decides the restriction on consumer. So they are supposed to comply to what is written in the standard.
Is considering active filters for reactive power compensation right?
It is right if it fits into your total solution. And another thing is, I mean, instead of spending say 1,500 rupees per kVR, you may spend about 3,000 rupees per kVR if you do it through active filter. But the advantage is whenever you want correction on lag as well as lead side, maybe that is the best solution.
Is residential consumer also under penalty for bill?
No LT or residential consumer comes under this.
How can we understand our reactive power requirement in multiple load conditions? Multiple loading conditions, I guess.
You have to record active and reactive power for a full load cycle, maybe 24 hours or 3 days on a recording type power analyzer. What we normally do when we do such audits.
Someone is saying that harmonics are generated from the solar in solar project. How can you say it only generates active power?
See, basically, the inverters are all, solar inverters are all MNRE approved and there is a regulation already in place. So any solar inverter sold in India is not expected to generate current harmonics beyond a specified limit. Now, harmonics in connection with solar are most of the time discussed, basically because suppose you have say 500 kilowatt as plant load and if you have 1000 kVA, 1000 kWp as your solar generation, then what actually happens is whenever your generation is about to be equal to your plant load and whenever it becomes more than plant load, during that small duration, your transformer undergoes a situation wherein the current handled by transformer is very close to its magnetizing current. And transformer magnetizing current, we all know that obviously has a lot of harmonic distortion. If that is measured by either utility or by any other person, then during that 1.5 hours period, when this situation comes, this situation typically comes twice in a day. It comes around at 9:30 in the morning and about 10:30 in the evening. So in those two cases, you will always see more harmonics in typically a solar system. Otherwise, the inverters are MNRE approved and they have a lot of control on that. So you can get it checked. If there is ultimately solar inverter is an electronic machine, so it can fail also. But in a normal working condition, it should not generate harmonics beyond acceptable limits.
Should we consider distributed PF correction or centralized PF correction?
Again, it depends upon cost effectiveness of the both. As I said, if you have a huge plant, then it is advisable to have distributed correction. If it is small, all that optimization can be done well if you simulate your system. And see, ultimately, why we do distributed correction? To reduce distribution loss. Suppose you have a 20 HP motor, maybe at 500, 300 meters from your LT panel, and if it is operating at 0.75 power factor, your cable carries more current, and you want to compensate loss in that cable. That's why you have to have a capacitor near to the motor. But if that loss is not even not 1% of your total consumption, then just because it is ideal, you should not do that. If you come next to any distributed correction, actually corrects only that particular load, and it doesn't come to you for handy to you for correcting your one upstream power factor at one upstream level. So any one upstream level, if you connect a APFC or RTPFC panel, it can probably take care of all the loads simultaneously. So a judicious decision can be done. What I was trying to explain as far as distributed correction is concerned was that all large loads which are fixed. See, so many plants we have ventilation fans and other type of fans and pumps which keep running 24 hours. They work only on DOL star delta starter. There is no nonlinear load connected to them. So there you can have a local correction which can be interlocked through their own contactor. So whenever that motor is on, that capacitor will get connected and you will get a reasonable correction. Apart from that, for large plants, distributed correction, obviously you will have to plan it properly, cost it properly, get convinced that distributed correction is giving you better benefit, and only then you can go for it. That's what we do when we do such audits and simulate the entire system in software. Our software also allows for optimal placement of capacitors. I mean, it can also tell you that these are the points where if you correct, you get maximum benefits.
How can we calculate incremental consumption rebate?
They have clearly said that last 3 years KWH figures every month you will have 36 figures, right, for last 3 years. If the period is less, you have to suppose your installation itself is 2 years old, then they say calculate it for 2 years. But those who have 3 years consumption, they have to add all 36 months KWH figures to each other, divided by 36. That will give you your average KWH consumption for last 3 years, last 36 months. Whatever from 1st of April, whatever you consume more than that figure, you will get 75 paisa rebate on 7 rupees 2 paisa. So instead of those incremental units over and above your average for last 3 years, if you are spending, let's say you are spending 100 units, then those 100 units more than average will be charged for 7.02 less 75 paisa.
Can we run reactors in already installed AP panels to mitigate harmonics?
Most of the time, no, because if you have only capacitors, they will be rated for 415 volts. And involved harmonic calculation can tell you, prove you technically that whenever you detune a capacitor using a reactor, the voltage across capacitor goes to 525 volts, rather more than 500 volts. The nearest available voltage is 525. Immediately your capacitor life will drastically reduce if you use same capacitor with a reactor. Because by having a reactor in series with capacitor, now you are giving an additional path to harmonic currents, additional low resistance path to harmonic current than earlier. So that particular step is going to now carry more harmonic current, and because of that the capacitor comes under stress and it deteriorates and damages early. So it is not advisable. If you want to change, you should change reactor with new capacitors.
Today's tariff is based on type of utilization. Is there any future planning that a tariff will shift to voltage level?
Technically speaking, I don't see any further advantage or disadvantage of changing this. I mean, this is maximum what a utility can do. That they are going to charge you for booking their capacity. Generally, any source side equipments are rated in kVA, right? You have kVA generating generator, you have a cable rated for current, you have a transformer rated for kVA or MVA. So by charging for current, you are anyway charging for installed capacity. So any better system, at least I have not thought of, can come up later. Incidentally, the countries which have plenty of generation are not bothered about this. They don't bother about this at all. And presently we are working in Malaysia. Malaysia doesn't care about any power factor beyond 0.9. No extra benefit if you cross 0.9 power factor. Anything beyond that, if you require additional kVA, utility company is ready to give you free.
How to calculate bulk consumption rebate in new bill? Considering that.
Explain that. I mean, if we can share our PPTs later on, we can do this.
Okay.
What you have to do is first 1 lakh units you have to take out from your total KWH consumption, and then next 1 lakh to 10 lakh, that means another 9 lakh units. and then balance, and then that for first 1 lakh unit there will not be any discount. For next slot there is 2%. For next slot there is 1.5%. So it's written in our presentation. We can share that with them if required.
Okay. Is audit on site chargeable? If yes, then how much? Yes, we certainly do charge for audits because we give you the realistic picture, and the charges are based upon are decided on the number of days required. So if you guys can share your SLD, that helps us identify the areas or the number of feeders where we need to collect the data, and then we define our mandates and accordingly we charge. But they are reasonable.
Let us try to explain this here that we have a investment of about 30 lakh rupees in our equipment, and we maintain a team of about 6 graduate engineers for undertaking these audits and give proper advice to our clients. So obviously this has some cost. So reasonably that cost is recovered through what advice we give. And once the advice is given, if the solution is required from us, at that point we go into vendors, role, and then you can compare us with any standard vendor, and then take your decisions. And the reports typically give you a complete BOQ of what is required. So it's a design consultancy. It's not only an audit consultancy as far as reactive power compensation is concerned. So you can physically prepare a tender once such audits are done with a proper recommendation of each and every component required, and then you can buy based on that. So it's a kind of a design consultancy.
What should be the ROI normally acceptable to the management for such improvements?
Difficult to answer this question. It depends upon their view of looking at the whole thing.
Usually, what we are seeing in the industry standard is 18 to 24 months is something that is acceptable. Post COVID, what do you say? It may be between 12 to 18 months, but 18 to 24 months was certainly acceptable to a lot of companies when we were talking to them initially before this COVID crisis happened.
See, what I tried to explain during the presentation was something like this: that if the budgets are less and genuinely less, then what you can do is split your solution implementation in next 2-3 years. Have a master plan in the beginning and implement it the way anytime when you get budgets. I mean, that is also possible. Not that you should do everything at one go. Every step you execute definitely will get some benefit.
Yeah, this is a query. My billing meter is 3 kilometers away from my plant, and we maintain PF according to our main income meter, that is the check meter. Nowadays, our plant has fully stopped due to COVID. At that time, the plant load was around 130 to 40 kilowatt, and our grid line is 132 kVA with Panther conductor. We maintained PF 0.987, but when we saw the bill was considered billed PF was 0.85. So how could we?
Because of capacitance of that conductor. You can share the bill and the conductor's specification with us. We can tell you how much, what would be the solution. And there, some solution is definitely required there.
Yeah,
300 kVAR, if it is clocking without plant is running, then it will get converted into kVH and you will get billing.
Yeah. Just a minute. What is the limit defined in IEEE 519 for ITHD and VTHD for acceptance?
Fundamentally, IEEE 519 now 2014 talks about what they call as ISC upon IL ratio. ISC is a short circuit current of grid from where you are getting supply, and IL is your average loading, or maybe current as per your contract demand. So that decides how much large or small portion you are of the grid. So ISC upon IL, the ratio is split into less than 5 to greater than 20 as far as the standard is concerned. And greater than 20 means obviously the customer is very small, and less than 5 means the customer is very big. And accordingly, there is a table given there, and based on that, your TDD limits are decided. And again, the TDD limits are also decided for voltages less than 69 kV, voltages greater than 139 kV, and up to 60 from 69 to 139, and above 139. So there are three levels in that. And based on that, whatever TDD is calculated, TDD is nothing but your current harmonic distortion at maximum current. So based on that, those limits are decided. And now CEA says that all these discoms in India will have to implement as per IEEE 519/2014. So 2014 doesn't say that it should even once in 24 hours or once in a week, if your distortion is crossing the limit, then you should be penalized. The standard now says that how many number of times you cross that, even based on that formula is given in the standard. So all that put together, a detailed study and compliance limit can be calculated. Presently, what is happening is MSCDCL, although it is written in their own supply code, their field staff is not aware of what the standard says. Rather, this is happening everywhere in the country. Why only MSCDCL? They just come for some time, they measure your harmonic distortion, THD, not even TDD, and based on that, they say whether your distortion is more or less. So as far as compliance is concerned, it's slightly complicated measurement and calculation required, which we normally do when we conduct audits.
Yeah. Just a
Details about harmonic compliance and solution on it would be a totally separate webinar kind of thing, which can be conducted for similar period.
This is a question. Do you suggest any energy monitoring system for such billing on real-time basis, which keeps an eye on kWh, kVh, PF, etc., all on a conventional system? Install conventional system.
IoT based monitoring. It is same. I mean, I have just given a new name to the same bottle. It is IoT is exactly same. Instead of having only an energy management system in which you have to run to a computer and see the results, you can either, if you already have a EMS, you can generate alert on your SMS coming from that EMS, or if you don't have, you can probably buy a small gateway and which works on a SIM card and fix meters and that hardware in your panel and keep getting alerts on your mobile. It'll definitely be helpful. I mean, if you do not have a foolproof system at present in plant, but if you have some provision to correct it occasionally, depending upon your load cycles, and if you get an alert, then obviously you can manipulate your manpower in such a way that some optimization you can do manually if you have a monitoring system.
What is the benefit of conducting reactive power study from a third party?
Who is that third party? It will depend upon that.
If it's
Getting it done from third party will, if that third party is like us, probably give you optimized solution.
Yeah. My facility PF is 0.995. Is there still a chance to increase? It means, will the kVh increase due to harmonics present in the system?
Basically, you will have to check whether how you are measuring this 995 at present. If it is by a normal 6430 or some panel meter, then it may or may not give you. It will all depend upon what model you have selected. If it is not a true PF, then please monitor your kVh and kWh figures in the bill. If that division is not 995, then your utility is not accepting that as a 995 power factor. Maybe you every day as well. I mean, every day you can take tariff meter reading, MSCDCL or whosoever is your utility company. Their readings every day for kWh and kVh. Divide it. If it is not 995, then they are not recognizing it as 995 because you have probably harmonics in your current.
Can we add master PF controller on sub PF controllers?
Depend upon what setup you have. I mean, it is possible you can also have summation cities and so many things are possible in as actual control is concerned. But there cannot be a kind of generalized suggestion for this. It depend upon site to site and situation to situation.
Yeah.
Many two panels if you have and if you want to use both the panels to control a single feeder power factor, then you can definitely configure them into master and slave.
Yeah. I guess energy changes system. Energy changes in bill is increased more than 10 to 15%. Or is it 10 or is it even more? There is a question coming up. Energy changes in the bill. They are seeing that the bill has increased by 10 to 15%. What? Whereas MSNCL is claiming that they have reduced the cost.
I mean, throughout the webinar, I have explained that it all depends upon which category you fit into in all those these things. If you are below 1 lakh units per month, then your bill is bound to increase by 8 to 9% even with new tariff.
Okay. I guess the questions that were put to us have been answered. And I would like to thank all of you for patiently being here through the webinar and putting in your questions. As mentioned earlier, we at SAS PowerTech are more focused towards guiding the customer in choosing what he should buy rightly, rather than trying to push something that we have in our basket. So that way, request for any electrical systems energy means reactive power compensation is one of the activities that we were very closely associated with MSCDCL. Apart from that, we have a lot of other offerings that are of great help to industry in especially maintaining their uptime and also have a control on their energy costs. So thank you once again for joining in. For any queries related to this, you please connect with us. And as you have registered for our webinars, now you will be on our mailing list. And we will see that some more informative webinars are brought in with current topics or topics of concern, so that I guess if our clients become wiser, then it becomes very easier to deal with all of them. And if you educate them rightly, then they select their solution in the best possible way. I would thank again all and Mr. Dwivedi for explaining it patiently, and for all clients who joined Goodyear team who joined from Delhi, Aurangabad. There was Sandvik team which joined. There were many of our clients who joined in, and Kansai Nerolac people joined in. Godrej teams joined in. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being a participant to this webinar, and hope your queries have been answered. And beyond that, please connect with us. We are just a mail away. Put us a mail and we'll certainly address your query. Thank you for joining in. Thanks.